Attention friends, because in addition to the rear suspension at Spa, we will see another update from Ferrari. In today's video, we are going to look in detail at what it's all about. We also need to talk about Leclerc's comment on Berman's 2026 regulations, who feels like a man. Jerome D'Ambrosio's Ferrari, who has commented on the Reds car for next year. We also need to talk about Williams, Mick Schumacher, McLaren, and much more. At the end of the video, I have to tell you some incredible news. I can't wait. Before we start, please leave a supportive like, and now let's look at everything in detail. Ferrari is getting ready to face the second part of the 2025 Formula 1 season, seeking concrete technical answers to consolidate its growth. The title chase is now out of reach, but in Maranello the goal remains clear: to strengthen the certainties about the Scuderia Ferrari 25 project in order to transfer what has been learned to the 2026 single-seater codename Project 678. At the Mugello filming day, Ferrari brought an initial evolutionary package to the track, focused on the new rear suspension designed to reduce the squat phenomenon in traction. This intervention aims to improve the management of the vertical load in all driving phases, allowing the car to operate in a wider and more stable usage window, especially in relation to the ground clearances anticipated in the design phase. A significant change, designed to optimize the aerodynamic platform and provide better mechanical balance. The effectiveness of the update will only be validated by the track, and Ferrari has chosen Spa-Francorchamps as the main test bench, not only for its technical characteristics, 7 kilometers of curves of different radius and long stretches of high speed. But why doesn't the Belgian track allow to hide the shortcomings of a single-seater at Spa? The Scuderia Ferrari 25 will hit the track with new suspension components and a new aerodynamic configuration designed for the high-speed stages, like those of Monza. And in view of the Belgian Grand Prix in Maranello, they are working at full speed to complete the production of the new rear axle components. The goal is to have enough spare parts in case an intervention on the track becomes necessary. Considering the pitfalls of Spa, especially in the fast sections and direction changes, Ferrari wants to ensure the possibility of immediately replacing any damaged parts without risking compromising the planned work schedule. And despite the traditional Spa-Monza sequence no longer being consecutive in the calendar, Ferrari will anticipate the debut of the low-load rear wing, destined for the Italian Grand Prix. The choice is strategic to test the SPA track with similar characteristics in terms of the demand for aerodynamic efficiency. And this will allow the engineers led by Diego Tondi to collect fundamental data to deliberate the use of the final wing. The focus will be mainly on the third sector of Spa, where aerodynamic resistance has the greatest impact on performance. And the team, with the OXR working on the technical plan, will have to monitor the reliability of the new Hydro Guide, a component that came under scrutiny after the problems that emerged in the first part of the season. And all this is part of a complicated weekend due to the sprint format, which reduces the time available for trials and setup tests. An additional challenge for the prancing horse, which aims to gather precise indications on a solid technical and crucial package for the upcoming races. And so this is another important element, because Ferrari will not only bring the rear suspension to Spa, but also a revised rear wing with the Monza specification. So a low-load wing suitable for Spa, where good aerodynamic efficiency is needed. Especially the last sector, where it's practically all straight, apart from the bus stop, which is the last chicane. So it will be crucial to see if Ferrari can perform well at Spa, especially in terms of top speed, and how this new rear suspension will also behave. Hamilton says he is satisfied with the result of the filming day at Mugello. In fact, after a troubled start to the season, Ferrari seems to have embarked on a new technical direction thanks to the aerodynamic updates introduced in the latest races. Among these is the new car floor, which has been a key element in improving the performance of the Scuderia Ferrari 25. In fact, the updates brought by Ferrari to both the floor and the rear suspension are also crucial for managing dynamic heights and for controlling flows in the rear area. Two aspects that from the very first races had put both Hamilton and Leclerc in difficulty. And despite the media weight of his arrival in Maranello, the 7-time champion experienced a first part of the season marked by disappointment. Problems with feeling the car, balancing difficulties, poor responses from the single-seater. This was highlighted by Lorenz Barreto, who pointed out that after the victory in the Shanghai sprint, he was never able to find the rhythm he expected. Difficulties related to the brakes. We remember the engine brake at engine brake. In the last two races, however, thanks to the introduction of the new bottom, the situation has started to change. And the Belgian Grand Prix for Hamilton will represent the first real test for the updated package, both on the aerodynamic and mechanical level. And it will be a particularly delicate test, also considering the format of the weekend's sprint race, and the uncertainties related to the reliability of the hydraulic system of the Scuderia Ferrari 25, the so-called Hydro Guide, which has been improved for the next race. And speaking of this, we need to hear together the words of Jerome D'Ambrosio, who has expressed his opinion on next year's car and the relationship with Lewis Hamilton. In fact, in an interview with Automotor Newsport, Jerome D'Ambrosio, the deputy team principal of Ferrari, has expressed his opinion on the single-seater. It's development. We must be careful when we say that the car is designed following a certain direction requested by the drivers, he stated. The development always starts with the goal of building the fastest car possible. On this, the OXR and his team have very clear ideas. There are objective technical parameters to respect before any other consideration. The second phase of development is used to understand what the drivers need in order to adapt in the best way possible. The fact that the OXR has known Lewis for a long time certainly helps with communication, but the XR also has a great relationship with Charles. Technical work does not play favorites. And why is that? Jerome D'Ambrosio has stated that only after the technical foundation of the car is very solid can they intervene to make it more suitable for the feeling required by Hamilton and Leclerc. And it's a methodical approach that reflects the philosophy of the prancing horse. First technical efficiency, then human adaptation. And this is a topic that even Steiner himself recently raised in a podcast, saying how important Hamilton is in Formula 1 and in Ferrari. How much of a brand he is himself compared to all the other drivers and how his importance conflicts with the brand. Ferrari both have needs, but Ferrari remains focused on its goal to improve the car as much as possible and make the car as fast as possible, as Jerome D'Ambrosio himself also said, while Hamilton on the other hand has his needs as a driver but also as a brand ambassador. From this point of view, Verstappen is less so and would have less room for maneuver in Ferrari compared to Hamilton, who is almost on par with a pop star. As Steiner himself said, for Max only races matter. Lewis on the other hand has a broader goal in life. But we have to see Charles Leclerc's concern about the regulation. 2026, why is the Monegasque driver so worried? A epochal change expected for 2026 will come. And at the center is the new generation of hybrid power units, which will generate 50% of the power through the electric component. And it's a technical project that focuses entirely on efficiency and energy management. Leclerc said it's not the most fun single-seater he's ever driven. In fact, Leclerc is among the few drivers who have already tested a prototype compliant with the 2026 regulations. And he expressed his doubts unequivocally it won't be the most enjoyable single-seater to drive. I hope the project evolves, but at the moment I'm not a big fan. There will be the challenge of adapting to something very different, but I'll have fun. Probably not. Even Stroll has gone out on a limb. He said that the regulation is a bit sad. He stated the rules are a bit sad. We are moving towards a Formula 1 too tied to electric and energy management. It would be nice to have light, powerful cars with a lot of load rather than a championship of scientific management of batteries. The issue of energy management is crucial. As Andrea Cimi-Antonelli himself explained, the electric power risks running out on long straights like those of Monza, forcing drivers to modulate their driving to maximize recharging, with a 50-50 ratio between internal combustion and electric. The engine needs to be managed depending on the driving parts, whether there's a straight or a curve to tackle. Even Toto Wolff and James Wolfe have taken a stance on the development of the 2026 single-seaters. And Toto Wolff said the drivers always want cars with a lot of grip and powerful engines. They'll get used to it in the end. Our job is to keep competitiveness high. Obviously, no one wants a transformation of Formula 1 into a scientific management championship. But the real difference will be made by those who can better interpret the hybrid and new dynamic balances. And this concern that Charles Leclerc has about the new regulations, well, it worries me a bit too, because Leclerc has already tested a prototype of what the 2026 single-seater will be like. It's also true that it's very early, so these are not the official cars. There will be a lot of room for work even during the winter break, but a change is needed to try to have a championship that is less about management, especially of energy on the straights, and to have high top speeds, so that the drivers can express themselves to the fullest with those cars, rather than a management championship. I'm not too worried about the missing aerodynamic load part, because I remember 2014 when the new regulation on hybrid power units was introduced. Even then the load was reduced, and then gradually over the years it increased, so will the same thing happen? It's normal that in the first year of new regulation the cars have less aerodynamic load. It will be interesting to see which drivers adapt better and worse to these new cars. And the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile has officially allowed teams to experiment with active aerodynamics. In fact, the front mobile aerodynamics can be used during testing. Pirelli for the development of the 2026 tires with the new 18-inch tires in a narrower version. In fact, this new mode of mobile aerodynamics will arrive not only at the rear drag reduction system but also at the front wing. With an X mode for low load straights and maximum speed management and a Z mode for curves and slow sectors, there is a risk that on tracks with few brakes like Monza, where there are few curves and many straights, you only run with about 500 horsepower of endothermic power out of the theoretical 1000. And so the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, through the work of Nicolas Tombasis's technical department, has chosen to introduce the possibility of testing aerodynamics right away. Also active to allow Pirelli to study the variation and behavior of the tires as the load configuration changes. There is no crash test requirement for experimental movable wings, and the first test with movable wings can be seen in the following days at the Hungarian Grand Prix, with Alpine, McLaren and Racing Bulls on track in Budapest, while Ferrari and Red Bull will bring the Scuderia Ferrari 25 mule car to the subsequent tests in Monza and Mugello. The appointment will be in Mexico, close to the homologation of the new tires. The data collected will not only be useful to Pirelli, but can also guide the aerodynamic choices of the teams, who will have the opportunity to explore on track the complex management of balance with variable setups. It will be interesting to see how the new single-seaters of 2026 will be developed, also with these new tests approved by the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, which allow the use of mobile aerodynamics at the front. Here we will see for the first time the front wing, which moves depending on the various phases of curve and straight line. Let's see, however, the words of Williams on Carlos Sainz and also the contacts between Mick Schumacher and Cadillac. In fact, the arrival of Carlos Sainz at Williams has generated much more than a simple strengthening of the line. According to sports director Sven Smits, the impact of the Spaniard is being felt on all fronts, from internal dynamics in the box to the technical development of the car. 2026 up to commercial growth, he has renewed interest towards the driver academy of the Grove team. Carlos has been exceptional from the first day. He brought experience, method and has positively influenced every area of the team. Not only from a technical point of view, but also on an operational and human level, Smits declared. There is also a lot of harmony between Sainz and Albon in the development of the E-car. Sainz has also brought valuable technical insights even on seemingly marginal aspects, like the management of tires in the garage, preheating and logistics in wet conditions. Small details that, when added up, make a difference in an environment where every thousandth counts. We organized an event in Madrid expecting 5,000 to 7,000 people, 25,000 arrived. It was our sales and merchandising record. Carlos gave us momentum on all fronts. He made the team stronger and propelled us forward. And we're just getting started. With Carlos, we filled a void. We are confident that the work done in these months will bear fruit in the coming years. And I've been saying this for a while now, that a driver like Carlos Sainz could only do good for Williams, being an experienced driver and knowing many internal dynamics of Formula 1, and therefore help Williams on all fronts from the point of view of merchandising, from a technical, relational and also experience with strategies.
But let's see.
Also, the situation of Mick Schumacher with Cadillac. The American team led by Graham Loudon has not yet formalized its lineup. Several names circulate in the paddock, including Valtteri Bottas, who is said to possibly also go to Alpine, and also Sergio Perez. And the same Schumacher, yes, with the acquisition in progress, the same Mick Schumacher has stated, the communication has been positive, they have already hired many important figures for the project. For me, it would be an honor to be part of this challenge, and Loudon said we are looking for motivated drivers and give everything for the team. We are not looking for someone who just wants to prove something to the world or take revenge on Formula 1. We want drivers motivated to give their all for the team, driven by the project, not by personal motivations. Choosing Schumacher would be an interesting option for Cadillac. Certainly his performances in Formula 1 have not left a deep mark though. On the other hand, the work done as a Mercedes tester and the maturation in the World Endurance Championship could represent a guarantee for a team looking for solidity at its debut. Perhaps pair Schumacher with an experienced driver like Perez or Bottas. Loudon's statements make it clear that they don't want a driver who wants to take revenge on Formula 1 on his departure, as it could be, for example, Perez taking revenge on the situation he experienced at Red Bull and the early farewell. However, they might lean more towards Bottas, even though Bottas is contested by Alpine, which at the moment is seeking more guarantees from its second driver, Franco Colapinto. And it will be evaluated from now until the end of the season, as Briatore himself said. And also watch out for Williams for 2026, having the Mercedes engine, being the junior team of Mercedes itself, they could be further ahead in the standings. And we might find ourselves with a 2014-2015 style Williams that was even fighting in the top positions, especially in qualifying, with various polls made by Bottas, by Massa, we all remember them. It will be interesting to see which drivers they select at Cadillac. In my opinion, they will go for an experienced driver and a young driver. And the young driver could be Mick Schumacher himself, while there are still several names for the experienced driver. But pay attention to some very interesting behind the scenes on Christian Horner's situation, because our Red Bull internal employee has overstepped. The decision to fire Horner was strongly desired by Oliver Mintzlaff, Chief Executive Officer of Red Bull Motorsport, and saw Laurent Michi, former Racing Bulls, rise to the position of team principal. so in place of Horner. But the management earthquake did not stop there. In fact, the Sun has collected direct testimonies from staff at the Milton Keynes factory describing a disoriented and stormy team. Not only for the removal of Horner, but for the way the Austrian management communicated the decision. Helmut Marko, a historic figure in Red Bull's management, reportedly met with employees the morning after the dismissal with a superficial approach and inappropriate jokes, prompting some team members to threaten resignation. The day after the dismissal, Marko told us to smile more, but no one felt like smiling. It seemed out of touch with reality, an employee stated. Oliver Minzlav's communication also sparked discussion. According to testimonies, during an internal meeting, the German manager allegedly made light of the dismissals of Horner, the marketing manager, and the head of communication. He told us, if you have problems, write to your boss, and if you no longer have a boss, write to me. And he started laughing, another team member reported. The discontent also seems to be linked to the fact that about 90% of Red Bull's staff comes from the United Kingdom. And he was hired right under Horner's guidance, now generating a strong sense of disorientation. A friend close to Horner told The Sun that Christian feels betrayed. After all that he, Jerry, and the family have been through in the last 18 months, he has not yet received an explanation. The Austrian top brass never digested that Red Bull's success was built around a team created by Horner in England. And according to the same sources, the atmosphere in Milton Keynes would be in total chaos, with part of the staff ready to leave. And beware that this situation of disorientation will certainly affect Verstappen's situation
and influence
also on his future. Latest news Thursday and Friday, I will be in Woking, England. Just think, to visit the McLaren factory. For me, it's a dream come true and I can't wait to bring you lots of content about it. There will be behind the scenes videos of the factory, how a Formula 1 team works behind the scenes. And I'll see if I can also do some interviews with McLaren members, so you'll see a lot of content about it later on. With that said, I thank you for all the support. Please leave a like, subscribe, turn on notifications if you're not subscribed yet. That way you won't miss all the Formula 1 and Ferrari themed videos that come out on the channel.
Here from.
See you next time from Rastadutto.